Hi, I'm Daniel Lucas, and welcome to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest, the 40 plus year clinician who cracked the code on personalized nutrition, none other than Dr. Ray Wisniewski.
Uh,
Welcome, Dr. Ray on Book 101 Review. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I miss?
Sure, I'm a chiropractor. I've been in practice for over 40 years, and I've used a number of different technologies that we've created in that process to really just to better the the human potential. And that's we've created Food Pharmacy, which is a hyper personalized nutrition software for practitioners that allows them to really utilize food as medicine and use medicine as food. I mean, it's use food medicine being a food. It's really a phenomenal way to look at things from an above down, inside out approach. And we use remote patient monitoring. We have our weight loss direct, which we go across the world actually with just the most phenomenal weight loss program. So that's what I'm all about. Just helping people from a holistic point of view.
Interesting, Dr. Ray, and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. Thank you. And today let's talk about food as a medicine revolution. So tell us, the term food as a medicine is gaining traction, but how does the inspired blueprint fundamentally differ from a mainstream integrative nutrition?
Well, it's totally different, and the reason why it's totally different is that we're looking at there's foods that can help a problem, and there's foods that can actually harm a problem. And where we've really cracked the code is it's really easy if you have just one health challenge. If you have a challenge like gout, and you say, okay, just stay away from foods high in purines. In fact, but it's even way more than that, to be honest with you, because there's certain foods that'll increase the excretion of proteins from the kidneys. There's most of the purines in the body are made in the liver, so there's a way for the liver to deal with that. But once you start to add in, you have a you have gout, you have high blood pressure, you have diabetes, you may have fibromyalgia, you have multiple conditions. And there's foods that will help one condition and harm another condition. That's what we call cross interference. And that's where we've cracked the code on all of this. And once you've done that, it really changes everything because every health challenge, no matter what you have, as I said, there's foods that'll help it. There's foods that are harm it. And that's one of the things that people want to know is what are the foods? How can I help myself? That's probably the biggest question that patients ask. You're diagnosed with something and the doctor diagnosed it and you say, well, what foods can help me and what foods can harm me? What should I be doing? What should I be preventing? And a lot of times people the doctor will just say something like, right now it's not a situation. Let's just monitor this and we'll wait and see. And it's like, you don't want to wait and see. You want to be improving whatever that condition is. And the right diet will help anything else that you're doing. I don't care what therapy you're doing. If you're taking a medication or if you're exercising, whatever lifestyle modifications, the right diet will help it. But the wrong diet will sabotage anything that you're doing. It'll harm that. So there's really helpers and there's harmers when it comes down to diet, and that's just a really big thing, Daniel. And that's when we've cracked the code on that, that's changed everything, and that's something that every healthcare provider can use. That's what every person can do. If you have a challenge, that you should be asking like, what can I do to help this? Like, what foods can I eat? No matter what else I'm doing, there's some things you're going to help and some things you're going to hurt. A lot of times it could be a good, healthy superfood, Like broccoli is a great food, kale is a great food. You'll hear people say, I'm doing these kale smoothies, but I'm feeling terrible, and they don't realize that they're smashing their their thyroid. And if you have a thyroid issue, or if you have a lack of iodine, that can really take the thyroid down. Now you're in a lot of trouble. And you thought you were doing something healthy, but in reality, you were sabotaging yourself.
Interesting, Dr. Gray. So RFK Jr. is a prominent voice on environmental toxin. How can central is the concept of detoxification and avoiding agrochemicals to this precision nutrition blueprint? And how do you translate that into a clinical protocol for healthcare professionals?
Well, that's the whole thing, and RFK Jr. like he's right on. I mean, when you take a look at this and you say, well, they're putting so many dyes and they're putting so many food additives. And by the way, you can look. There used to be a company. I don't even know if they're. I haven't checked as much lately. There was a company called Sonomics that they were a food engineering company. People say, well, what's a food engineering company? Well, food companies would hire them and they would look at the food, they would send them their foods, and they would determine, and they use something called HEK 294, which is human embryonic kidney tissue, that you have this cells that made from human embryonic kidney tissue that they sort of replicate the taste buds, and they'll add different chemicals to get to fire off neurons in the brain to make you want that food. And so it makes the food more desirous. It makes it so that the brain wants it more. But what it does is it also breaks metabolic pathways. It causes you to overeat, and it causes the body not to function the way it's supposed to function. And so he's saying, like, why are foods in America, for instance, have this the exact same foods will have so many more ingredients than they do over in Europe? And there's so many foods you look at and you say, well, why do they have all these ingredients in the food? And the reality of it is, it's this food engineering. Food is big business. Remember, it's all about the business. You put dyes in. Why do you put dyes in? To make it look better. You make it things shinier. You make it brighter. You want to fire off taste receptors so that the person desires it more. But those all have consequences, and they are affecting our diet. And that's what we need to do as far as. So I take it even a step further. So RFK Jr. is looking at it from the big picture, saying, okay, our food supply, we're using things like glyphosate, which is the Roundup. We have all these chemicals. We have genetic engineering that they're making it so that you can plant your vegetables, and then you can.
Even the Rich is a podcast from Wondery that tells the jaw-dropping stories about the tumultuous lives of the world's elite, from the greatest family dynasties to pop culture superstars.
Listen to Even the Rich on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can listen ad-free by joining Wondery Plus in Apple Podcasts or the Wondery app.
You can put Roundup on it and it kills everything, but that plant is immune to that because it has been genetically altered, that these harsh chemicals, these pesticides, won't kill it like they will all the other. Well, they'll kill the other plants, the other weeds. So you're putting these herbicides so that they'll kill all the weeds, but not that plant. But that has a consequence. So even our foods, that the same foods today versus foods from like 1950, they're totally different. The nutritional value is different, everything else. But we're saying, okay, let's do that, but also let's take a look at how we can help foods, because we have, you were talking about on this show with Book 101. There's different. It started with books like the China study that showed that there is a relationship from a whole food, plant-based diet. In that case, a plant-based, and I'm not saying it should be just plant-based, because it's not. You have foods like the China study, blue zones, where you're looking at different areas where people live longer and they ate different than other areas. And more recently, you have Dr. William Lee, who his book is his is just a great book, and it's all about basically, you know, eating to I'm trying to think what Dr. It's William Lee. I'm trying to think what the name of his book is, because it's a phenomenal book, but he takes it to the point of more actually foods for five. He puts it into 5 general health categories, and what are the foods that you should eat to help those things, and what are the foods that you should avoid for that. And we take that even a step further with food pharmacy, because ours is really what we're talking about with what we're doing is it's hyper personalized. I think his is Eat to Beat Disease. Um, that's William Lee's book, and it really is a groundbreaking book on that. And that's where he's just talking about the whole. I think from the very beginning, he says stop using food as fuel and start using food as medicine. And then he breaks it down into 5 defense systems of the body. I think it's so much more than that, but these are things that have sort of shaped our thought process, and RFK Jr. is part of that as well. With he's doing, I'm so grateful that he's putting food to the forefront. That instead of just looking at take more drugs, more chemicals, because if that was true, the people who took the most drugs would be the healthiest. And the reality of it is, it's exactly the opposite of that. And that's what I'm talking about. That's what it's all about.
Interesting, Dr. Gray. So tell us, this movement often positions itself against what is called the sick care system. What are the one or two most critical? Yes, go ahead, Mr.
What
Doctor.
was that?
This movement
It
often positions itself against what is called the sick care system. What
Yes, it
are
does.
what are the one or two most critical actionable changes a healthcare professional can make shift from managing chronic disease symptoms to addressing root causes through food?
Well, you know what, and that's a very very critical portion. That when we start talking about that, you have to start looking at that food is, it's a whole mindset shift. First of all, when we look at it, that there's we need to get away from this whole sick care system and look at how do we heal ourselves. And one of the first things is look at foods by God versus foods by man. And so what do I mean by that? I'm talking about the foods in nature versus the foods that we make, that we manipulate, that we have highly processed. Get away from all those highly processed foods. We talk about, there's a researcher, Fritz Albert Popp, and he discovered that the body was designed to only take in foods that were once living. So that's plants and animals. In other words, if they had DNA. And if it doesn't, the body is not designed to actually take those foods in. And once you take that in, you start to create all kinds of challenges within the body. So the one simplest thing that you can possibly do is really get back to nature and just get away from all these ultra processed foods. Start looking at ingredients. I would say that would be the next thing. Is every food that you look at, it should be, we tend to look at foods as the calories, and it's not about the calories, it's all those other ingredients. It's just the same way, even with from my point of view, with nutritional supplements. People are always looking at the ingredients on the nutritional supplements. I always start with the other ingredients, because I want foods that are excipient free, supplements that are excipient free. What do I mean by that? They add magnesium stearate, stearic acid, palmitic acid, cross-carmylose, silicon dioxide. Most of those are flowing agents, by the way. That's for them to make these supplements at a faster rate. but they're not designed to be in the body and they actually cause harm, which is really something when you think about it. You're taking something that you thought was going to be good, and it's causing harm. The other thing is, when you look at nutritionally, people will start to try to compensate by taking more supplements, and they'll take like a vitamin C and the B12, and they'll take all these different individual supplements like vitamin D. I always say it's all about the food, because the foods have, when God created this with nature, whether you say God, nature, here's the thing. That food has all the synergists, cofactors, the active transporters, the enzymes that the food needs to digest, to be able to process. They're all built together. There's substances in the foods that we eat right now we don't even know. We haven't discovered them yet, but they're already there. In some way, someone will say, "Oh, this is great. We find this new a vitamin or peptide or amino acid, and it's going to heal." And so that's the difference. I mean, there's research out just today, though, on just this week on cysteine, an amino acid, help healing the gut. It changes all the time. There's new research that comes out all the time. See, and that's the power of the things we're talking about. And our system is able to adapt. It's customized for each condition. It's personalized for the condition, but it's actually personalized for the practitioner too. They can put their actual thought process of what they think about nutrition and adapt the system to adapt that system for their practice, which is really powerful, and it's never been done before. You can take any you can go out to any AI and try to find. None of them can do what we do, and it's revolutionizing patient outcomes, patient experience, and the patient knowledge that they are armed. They are equipped, knowing what they can eat and what they shouldn't eat for their challenge. And when I say challenge, I really mean challenges, because it's always a complex challenge. Nobody comes in usually with one thing. It's always like, and by the way, just like when you start to take a medication and you start down this, I got that medical merry-go-round where you're on one medication, you're on another one, and you just keep adding to them as time goes on, it seems. When you start to eat the right foods, it happens in reverse. You find your body starting to heal, and as it starts to heal one area, other areas start to heal. So like when you're off one medication, you get off another medication, you start to feel the body healing. And and it's really just about, it's healing the body, supporting with the power of this body. And believe me, this body is so robust, it can overcome almost any health challenge when given the chance. And that's what it's all about. It's when given the chance. And we have that. The body is powerful. I always say there's nothing outside the body as powerful as the power that God put inside this body, that we have in this body. And that's what healing is.
Dr. Ray,
And by
what
the
are
way,
your
Dan,
Yes, go ahead.
yeah, I was gonna say, even if you cut your hand, you can sew it, patch it, put an antibiotic on. You do anything you want. None of it heals. The only thing that heals is when your body creates new cells, new life, and it's always doing that. And when you're giving the body the building blocks, and there's specific building blocks. There's phytochemicals in all these different in these different foods. There's different food components, and different foods have different components that will help that, but in some cases, it can cause harm as well. And that's why you have to know what those foods are. And that is, I can't tell you how powerful that is when you have the knowledge of knowing what are the best foods to eat for that individual.
Interesting indeed, Dr. Ray. And what are your short-term and long-term goals?
My short and long-term goals, I'll tell you what, my short-term goal is always, whenever I'm with a patient, I want to help that patient overcome whatever challenge there is. And that means sometimes they've gone so far, but it's always to optimize their body. to improve, no matter what it is. They're to be able to have that body heal and move in the right direction. Long term, we want to get this information out to as many people as humanly possible, because that's going to transform the world. And it's always about transforming people's lives. And you transform their lives when they have the power, when they have knowledge, and knowledge is power. And so many people, and it starts with the practitioners not knowing. People are asking, what can I do? They want to know this information. They want to know, how can I help myself? And food pharmacy gives you the exact, it's sort of like a food prescription to help that person overcome that challenge. But it also has there's self-help tips in addition to that. There's the reasons why the food was given with those conditions. What are the things you want to increase? What are the things you want to decrease or avoid? And so when you have that power, you'll notice that the body moves towards a leanness. You'll see that obesity starts to go away. You have health challenges begin to reverse. The body starts to regenerate. And my goal is really to get this information out to as many people as humanly possible. And that's why I thank you for the opportunity, Daniel, to be on your program. And hopefully we can affect and change some people's lives for the better.
For the better indeed. And can you please recommend a book or books that influence your journey, Dr. Ray?
I'll tell you what. I'll tell you the books that influence. I think with food pharmacy and with I would say would be things like the China study, the Blue Zones. Those are great books. Dr. William Lee is fantastic. But I'm going to tell you a book an old book that after 40 something years, patients still ask me about it constantly. I don't know if you can even get it. It's a series of books. It was written by a guy in his mid-20s, I think back in like 1980. And if you can get this, they're simple books to read. It's called the Rhinoceros Success Series. There's Rhinoceros Success, Advanced Rhinocerology, Rhinocerotic Relativity, and Advanced Rhinocerology. And in my office, I have rhinos around. And people are always asking me, they just asked me last week, what's up with the rhinos? I have patients giving me rhinos constantly. So I have to always purge some of my rhinos and take them out. And the reason is, it's just a book about going through life. It's I was given it to it when I graduated. I tell you, I purchased over 100 copies of that book and give it out to people. And it's about going through life as a metaphor, as either a rhinoceros or a cow. And a rhinoceros has 2-inch thick skin, a darn the torpedo spirit. You can't wait to wake up in the morning charging towards their goals. And once they're charging, nothing can stop it. Nothing stops a rhino. And whereas the cow, they sort of just graze and they're herded off to the slaughterhouse type of a thing. And I always want to think of myself as just I have that 2-inch thick skin. Whatever happens, I'm going to charge forward. We're going to reach the goals. I'm going to help as many people as humanly possible.
Thank you for that recommended book, Dr. Gray. And what would your piece of advice for those people out there want to be like you?
Well, I'd say that number one is you have to have that attitude of just you want to make a difference. When you want to make a difference, you'll do a lot of things. And it's just like you have that 2-inch thick skin. You just keep moving. You have a goal. You move towards that goal. And our goal is to just help as many people as we can. We've developed technologies for that. Technologies that did not exist, don't exist in any other form. There's no real competitors to what we do because of the products that we have. And I think that that's the biggest thing. It's just having that mental attitude that I'm going to move forward, whatever I need to do, and we're going to go do it.
Interesting advice. Interesting advice, Dr. Ray. And To wrap up our discussion today, if this movement is fully successful, what does a doctor's visit in 2034 look like?
Here's the thing. That visit looks like no matter what else they're doing, they're going to sit down with that patient. They're going to run an analysis. And that analysis is going to determine that exactly what that person needs to do. And then the doctor should be reviewing with the patient, what foods they need to eat, what foods they need to avoid. And you start off by looking at, you say, okay, what are the foods that you're eating now? What are the foods that are on the list that are really good for you that you like, that you should eat more of? Maybe that you don't eat as much of those and you really like those foods. And are there any foods that you tend to eat a lot of and they're on the avoid list? Because we break it down into 4 categories. It's preferred foods, neutral foods, cautionary foods, and avoid foods. And it's really how it affects your metabolic pathway. So if you're sitting down and you take a look and the person has that knowledge, and all of a sudden they say, "Oh my gosh, this is the food I eat the most, and it's in the avoid list." That gives them the knowledge to make a difference. And then you go over some of the natural things that they can do to help themselves, and that changes everything. Everything changes. And I'll say one other thing about this. When I sit down with a patient, I'm not sitting across from that patient. It's not like me against the patient telling them what to do. We're on the same side. We're on the same team. I sit knee to knee. It's knee to knee, heart to heart, arm in arm. It's sort of like it's me and that patient against their challenge. And it's like, hey, what do we need to do to help us get there? And so when they understand that, and we're on the same team, and we're showing them the things that they can do to help themselves, boy, I tell you what, Daniel, it makes all the difference in the world. And that's when you see a tremendous improvement in patient outcomes, patient experience, and the patients just absolutely love it. And I think we're going back, the funny thing is that if you look into some of the ancient traditional Chinese medicines, people would go to the doctor and the doctor would write them out a prescription to go, across the street to get the foods that they needed, not to get medications. And I think we're going to go more towards that because that's what health is. It's about being optimal. It's about understanding that when you take a medication, and that's not to say that that no one needs medication, because there are limits to time and matter. And sometimes the body needs a little bit of help. It's sort of like a crutch, but you don't want to be on a crutch the rest of your life. You want to get that healed and then have that be optimal. And that's what I think it'll look like in the future when people are using tools like FoodPharmacy.
Dr. Ray, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world and hoping for more and more empowering advocacy to come. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your advocacy, your projects, or anything you want to promote on Book 101?
I invite everybody to go to foodpharmacy.com. You can go to weightlossdirect.com as well. That's how you can personally get a hold of me. You can make consultations with me at weightlossdirect.com.
Yes, people, let's support Dr. Ray because if you support him, for sure, more and more empowering advocacy to come. So, Dr. Ray, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Daniel.
Body people, see you soon.